Dr. Evelyn Carter massaged her temples, staring at the flickering monitor before her. The emergency room stats didn't make sense. Admissions had tripled in the past week, but the reported symptoms were vague, inconsistent. Patients complained of pain they couldn't explain, emotions that didn't seem to be their own. A knock at her office door jolted her from her thoughts. Dr. Carter? It was Sam, one of the ER nurses. His eyes were rimmed with dark circles. We've got another one. Evelyn nodded, following Sam down the fluorescent-lit hallway. In exam room 3, a young woman sat on the edge of the bed, her whole body trembling. I'm Dr. Carter, Evelyn said softly. Can you tell me what's wrong? The woman looked up, her eyes brimming with tears. Everything hurts, but it's not my pain. I feel what they feel. She gestured wildly at the walls. All of them. Their fear, their suffering, it's too much. Evelyn frowned, jotting notes. Another case, just like the others. When did this start? 2 days ago, I was at the grocery store, and suddenly, the woman's voice broke. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was drowning in everyone else's feelings. After a thorough examination and finding nothing physically wrong, Evelyn prescribed a mild sedative and arranged for a psych consult. But as she watched the woman leave, leaning heavily on a friend, a chill ran down her spine. This was the 10th such case today alone. Weeks passed, and the cases multiplied exponentially. The media dubbed it the empathy plague. Evelyn worked tirelessly, poring over data, conducting tests, searching for a cause or cure. But the illness defied conventional medicine. One morning, as Evelyn hurried through the hospital's main entrance, she nearly collided with a man rushing out. Their eyes met for a brief moment. The world tilted. Suddenly, Evelyn was drowning in a sea of foreign emotions. Worry about a sick child, frustration over mounting medical bills, the sharp ache of arthritis, the hollow emptiness of grief, all crashed over her in waves. She staggered, gasping for air. Dr. Carter! Hands steadied her. Sam's face swam into view, concern etched in every line. Are you all right? Evelyn blinked, the cacophony of feelings receding to a dull roar. I think I've been infected, she whispered. Society began to crumble. Schools closed. Businesses shut down. People barricaded themselves in their homes, terrified of human contact. Those who had to venture out wore dark glasses and masks, avoiding eye contact at all costs. Evelyn worked from her apartment, video conferencing with colleagues around the world. They had isolated the cause, a mutation in the mirror neuron system, spread through prolonged eye contact. But a cure remained elusive. She stood at her window, watching the eerily empty streets below. A lone figure hurried past, head down. Evelyn felt a stab of their anxiety, their loneliness. She pressed her palm to the cool glass, her own isolation threatening to suffocate her. Her phone buzzed. A text from her sister, Claire. Turn on the news, now. Evelyn flicked on the TV. The president's grim face filled the screen. Must take drastic action. Effective immediately, a nationwide quarantine is in effect. All non-essential travel is prohibited. We must isolate to survive this plague. The words washed over her, but Evelyn barely heard them. Her mind raced. There had to be a solution, a way to... A sharp knock at her door cut through her thoughts. Evelyn hesitated and slowly approached. Through the peephole, she saw a man in a crisp suit, flanked by two others in dark clothing. Dr. Evelyn Carter, the man called. I'm Agent Reeves with the CDC. We need you to come with us. Your expertise is crucial to a top-secret government project. Evelyn's heart pounded. She opened the door a crack, careful to avoid eye contact. What project? Agent Reeves's voice lowered. The one that started all this. The underground facility was a maze of sterile white corridors and high-tech laboratories. Evelyn's mind reeled as she absorbed the truth. A well-intentioned experiment to increase empathy in the population had mutated, spiraling out of control. We thought we could make the world a better place, Dr. Emerson, the project lead, explained. His voice was heavy with regret. Instead, we may have doomed humanity. Evelyn threw herself into the work, desperate to find a cure. Days blurred into weeks. The outside world descended further into chaos. But inside the facility, time seemed to stand still. Then, one night, hunched over a microscope at 3 a.m., Evelyn saw it. A way to reverse the mutation. Hope surged through her, but it was quickly tempered by realization. The cure would work, but at a cost. It wouldn't just eliminate the plague, it would suppress the mirror neuron system entirely. They could end the pain, the overwhelming flood of others' emotions, but in doing so, they would effectively eliminate empathy from the human brain. Evelyn sat back, her mind racing. She thought of the suffering millions, desperate for relief. She thought of a world without empathy. Efficient, perhaps, but cold, unfeeling. The choice before her was impossible. End the plague and fundamentally alter humanity? Or let the suffering continue in hopes that people would adapt, that this shared pain might ultimately bring the world closer together. In that sterile lab, surrounded by humming machines, Dr. Evelyn Carter faced the most important decision of her life, and the fate of humanity hung in the balance. Epilogue. 5 years later, Evelyn stood on her balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant hues. The world had changed, adapted. People still wore their protective gear in crowded places, but they had learned to balance connection and isolation. She felt the familiar undercurrent of emotions from the city around her: joy, sorrow, anxiety, love. But it no longer overwhelmed her. Humanity had grown stronger, more resilient, more understanding. Evelyn smiled, feeling at peace with her decision. The plague had brought immense suffering, but it had also fostered a deep, unprecedented connection between all people. In choosing not to use the cure, she had bet on humanity's capacity for growth and adaptation. As the last rays of sunlight faded, Evelyn felt a swell of hope from somewhere in the city. It resonated within her, a shared optimism for the future, a future where empathy, even in its most extreme form, had become humanity's greatest strength.